Okay, how are you, sir? I'm doing all right.
Hello, sir. I'm Major General Mr. Smiley. I'm a West Coast police officer. How are you doing today? I'm all right.
Just get my questions opened up here. Give me a second. Can you start just telling us, your experience on one state and, you ever been PD before? You ever, been in a faction? What do you know about the game? Yeah, for sure. And do you have a good Discord? Are you in like the one state Discord system? Perfect. Could you start off telling me the green zones around the city? Very good. And you're familiar with the RP rules, correct? I mean, you're XPD, so you would know. Okay, what are the three different categories of violations that we're able to give out as officers? Okay. Smiley, feel free to just jump in here. I'm just gonna work my way down.
All right. Can you tell us what's RP8? Can you tell us what is Rule RP8 and why is it important here? So keep in mind this is. Let me say that keep in mind this is an open interview, so you can use whatever resources you may have because you are expected to answer um, at least some of these rules questions. Have a general idea of how they are or what they are.
So those are on Discord, NRP, or they're some of the RP rules, the chat rules and stuff are in the little book there between the bell and the store. Okay, can you tell me what your understanding of RP14 is? All right. How about a PD6? Do you know what a PD6 would be?
Oh yeah, it's definitely on Discord, NRP. Let's see. Can you tell us what's RP11, and why is it strictly enforced? All right, and why is it strictly enforced? And then we're going to jump to a rule that's pretty much, is important to our duties here. What is RP13? And can you give examples of RP13? All right, what positive change you would like to bring to PD? All right, what's the difference between RP8 and PD6? No, there's no need. How would you correct another vested officer if they violate RP protocol in public view? And what do you believe are the top responsibilities of a police officer in in one state? Especially in Glendale, in the city of Glendale. And when you say corruption, how would you deal with corruption?
So let me ask you, more tailored to RP. How would you handle a situation where you've got a suspect or you're trying to arrest and they're just continuously breaking the RP scene while you've got them detained and you're trying to finish your arrest? Yeah, I mean, there's plenty of different ways to break RP. Just in general, there could be, calling you out for different RP violations, threatening green tickets and admin saying, basically just not playing into your RP scene. Right. So let's say you're doing some training, for example, an RP training, and one of the trainees just keeps interrupting you, showing you attitude. What would be your RP response and your disciplinary approach to the trainee? Yeah, you would be one of the vested officers in this example. Okay. So for this next example, you're also a vest, and let's say you notice a junior officer that's abusing their vest access. What steps would you take to log, report, or resolve that issue? Okay. So let's say you're out in public again with another officer and you see them breaking PD rules on duty. How would you respond to that? Yeah, most of these you would be, one of those mid-level officers. You'd have your vest. Okay.
So I want to circle back around to that rule we call PD6, which is basically um, insubordination, right? So how would you handle an order given by a supervisor and you don't agree with it?
All right. So let's say you're a vested officer, you're out on patrol. Okay, you initiate a traffic stop, but a civilian, or no, let's say you don't initiate a traffic stop, you're just out on patrol, okay? You engage with a civilian, but they're refusing to cooperate. They're being difficult, but they're not specifically breaking any of the RP rules or the in-game rules. How would you de-escalate that situation? Someone who's just pretty combative, but not necessarily breaking any specific law. Correct.
Can you explain the new life rule? New life rule.
All right, I got a couple undercover questions for you. All right, let's say you're a detective, you're undercover, and you catch a, a police officer, one of your fellow officers, showing gang bias. What would you do? Yeah, either or, pretty much.
And when you say taking up the chain, um, what do you think the chain of command is?
Okay, so let's say you're undercover again, and you spot someone doing illegal activity, but you're unarmed and you're alone. How would you proceed? Yep. Yes, while you're undercover, you're not in a patrol car.
What are the gun laws here in one state? And so you agree that they can have their pistols out? So, and then, so can they have their guns out in front of PD? That wasn't my question. So, can they have their guns out in front of PD in the act of doing that self defense? And what is RP 15?
What does that mean to you?
What about inside P? What about if you were inside PD? How would you give examples of RP 15? So my question was more meant amongst the ranks. How would you give an example of RP 15 amongst your
Okay, let's say you're the most senior officer online. Okay, you could be a vest or a suit at this point, but there's nobody else online. There may be a couple other of your rank, but you're the one calling the shots. Okay, and we've got two active pursuits come across the radio. They're in different areas. Okay, you're the one making the call. What do you do? Okay. So let's say you're also the most senior officer at the time, and you've got a code red scene. Okay, a lot of shooting, big hectic scene, and a fellow officer of yours, lower than you, shoots a civilian. What's your action? Oh yeah, he was part of it. It's you're not sure if he was shooting or not. You didn't see it. Okay. Let's say someone that's a higher rank than you gives out an unlawful order or a biased order publicly, to a group of civilians, and you don't agree with it. How are you gonna handle that? Okay. So let's say you're out on a scene. Doesn't really matter your rank at this point, but you detained the wrong person. And the civilian starts recording, they're yelling at you about how they have body cam and they're gonna get you and all this. How would you handle this?
So to elaborate on that, um, the, I think the question is if you knowingly or after the fact discover you detain the wrong person, what would your actions be? So right on the scene, if you knew you detained the wrong person and you would still proceed with the rest of them?
Okay. Let's say, there's an admin event or we do our community affairs types events or another faction or, there's just an event going on. How can we as officers ensure public safety without disrupting the atmosphere of the event? Okay, and let's say you're at an event and you're with an officer that's ranked below you, and they make a minor mistake during an arrest procedure. Nothing crazy to you know prevent the arrest, but just a small little mistake. How do you correct them without harming the role play? All right, you're out patrolling by yourself. You're a vested officer, and you get a shots fired call that comes in. It's on the highway. You're the closest unit there. Can you describe what your response would be? Okay, let's say you thought you were the closest officer to the scene, but you show up and there's already a couple officers there and they seem to have it under control. What would your role be when you get there? Okay, let's say that same scenario, right? You pull up to the scene and everything seems under control. It's going to be a code 4, but said civilian, comes to you with a community concern. They're saying that the officers did something wrong or that they didn't feel right about the somebody's help me, man, help me, AWOL. What are you gonna do? Can you tell me what do you know what the 1015 macro is? Yeah. Okay, so let's say you just use that, right? You're making an arrest, you got him back in your car on your way to PD. And there's a civilian that's just verbally provoking you, harassing you during your arrest, and you're on your way to the station. What would you do? Okay. Um, so let's say, are you familiar with you said you're XPD, were you around with the walkie-talkies at all? Okay, what's the correct way to use those radios, especially while you're patrolling in a team? And why is it proper, and important to keep up good radio communication?
Oh, this is what I. Oh, go ahead, man.
No, go ahead. That's all right.
So I'm gonna give you a mock situation because you were XPD. Um, I want you to explain each, like the radio codes we would use in each order when you start in an ongoing pursuit. Like start from traffic stop all the way up into the last macro you would drop once you get that suspect in custody. So let me stop you there because that wasn't my question. My question was explain the radio codes from a traffic stop to a pursuit, ongoing pursuit, then to a suspect in custody. From a traffic stop, which turns into a pursuit, and then you resulted in, you apprehending the suspect. All right, so I wanted you to also give me the codes because you were XPD. So the codes should be, not just say pursuit. The question was, give me the radio codes in order doing a pursuit. So, but we'll move on though.
So over here, you will not ever do contraband missions until
Yes,
you're able to go out on
Hold
your
on, hold
own.
on, hold on, hold
But
on, hold
you
on.
can come over here. Whenever you have free time, you can do the patrols on your own, okay?
wrong way, Thea. Wrong way. Please go
Yeah,
downstairs.
I was PD before. I pretty much know all the bases of this of the PD place and all of that. But I gotta go right
All right, all right. Now you can finish what you were saying. So hold on. Let's go circle back to this question. So how long were you PD on that server? Because all right, because radio codes has been a thing on pretty much all the servers. We pretty much follow the same things. We may just have a different macro usage, but it's pretty much the same. That's hard to believe, sir, but we'll move on because the codes are pretty much set in stone from the administration of one state.
And just to clarify, the codes are, the flobby communications such as 10.4, 10.6, 10.11, all those kind of the codes you use.
They're not going. They're not going. Oh, my bad.
All right, so we did this interview based off when you told us your XPD. So when we asked you these certain questions, that's what we assumed. So
I just wait downstairs till they're done. Okay, thanks.
understandable.
So can you, just a basic question, not so much into the PD, but what are the characteristics that you possess that make you stand out from the other candidates we have? Why should we train you up on it? Why should we give you a chance to be PD here? What, do you got something, Clifton?
I was gonna say, I was gonna ask them. Well, you know you, so I will ask you this: what do you think you can improve on? Like, what do you think you need to get better at?
Okay, so Mr. AWOL, I appreciate your time. Clifton's gonna grab your cuffs here, and me and Mr. Smiley are gonna go have a conversation about this, just because we both conducted this interview. And we'll be right back with you, sir. I appreciate your extended. I know it was a bit longer than normal.
Tyler.
Yeah, the XPD get. We expect a higher caliber of knowledge. Okay, no problem. Smiley, if you just come over here.
you can you hear me now? Can you hear me now?
Mm-hmm.
Well, you gotta understand. If you say that you're prior PD, we want to see if you're prior PD. You know, especially we have, especially if you say you have you're an officer from another server, we would need to have, obviously not every rule for one server is is viable to able to apply to a next server, you know. And then at the same time, it's like basic, it's same time that's basic things like uh, macros and other things like that. Those are like basic things that every officer needs to learn from day one. Okay, yeah, we can figure all that out in due time.
You good, Toxic? Go ahead. Toxic.
You've been fired from your guard duties. You left it unprotected,
No, I was fixing something with Cruz.
and you couldn't tell anybody.
Because it was gonna be fast.
You were gone for 10 minutes.
Man, stop the lie. I just literally went to floor one and came back up.
Now you opened the door. What are you doing?
Sir, stop messing with my door. Messing with you, I'm just messing with you. You Bella Dorchester. Don't, don't, sir, don't, sir, don't. Do not go in there. Do not go in there. Do not go in there. If y'all see me in the doors for a reason, right? Just say down there, man. If they told you something, just say that Giovanni told you to just say down there.
Yeah, I have no idea, dog. Hold on, let me message him.
Okay, sorry about that, sir. We had to go through your responses. So I'll give it to you straight. You know, with this XPD interview and the way we conduct this, there's a certain level of substance we expect out of the RP related questions that just wasn't quite there, as well as a lack of knowledge on, certain PD violations, such as the PD6 is pretty common. And, some of those codes, the 10-4s, the traffic stops, your suspect in custody, all that kind of things that I wish you would, if you can go back and study up a little bit more on those and give more in detailed, responses rather than follow the chain of command
Know your
or
ring.
things like that. Like really go into how you would respond. And if you study the PD violations, which are in Discord, I'm willing to send you those if you don't have access to that. Or the code, the list of codes that we use across all servers, I think are the same. If you can do that and come back tomorrow at 7:30 p.m. for a very similar interview, um, we'd love to have you back. But at this time,
Don't go in there.
well, you offered up that information, sir. So as soon as, when I ask people if they have experience playing one state or being in factions, that kind of thing, and you tell us that you were PD, wherever, that's when we get into our list of more in-depth. Well, I'd have to disagree with you, and that's not saying that you can't come back tomorrow and do just that. But, tonight, of the week,
Just take him in cuffs and
Sir, I think you misunderstood what he said. When we opened up the interview, you offered us that you had prior XPD experience. We didn't ask if you had it on this account, any other account, or anything like that. You offered that information. So when we asked if you had experience and stuff, and you say yes, you was prior PD on whatever, then our question shifts to it's no longer a normal like new person to PD type of interview. So based off the scenario tonight, you didn't provide enough substance to some of the questions and stuff like that, what he was saying. So that's why we're asking you to just come back tomorrow for another interview as a regular recruit and, maybe don't offer that experience, if you don't want it to be held against you. And additionally, go ahead and read, some of the get rules of the game on the Discord, like you were saying. Because if you're telling me you're XPD and you don't know what PD6 is, that's kind of a no-brainer right there, sir. Sir, let's go.
Are we done?
The fat one, huh?
Case done.
Over here.
All right, sir. Have a good day. We encourage you to come back tomorrow and try again.